Testing, testing, testing. 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 Can you hear me? Hi, Katie. Hi, everyone. Happy Sunday. We'll give it a few minutes. Thank you for you all joining. All right. Looks like we got a couple people joining. So hope you all are doing good on this Sunday. It's afternoon over where I'm located. I know some of you are on the East Coast. Good evening, everyone. Hope you all are having a good day. First off, just let me know where you're all watching from. So, Katie, I know you're on the East Coast. I forget which state you're in again. But just put it in the chat, what's your name and where you're watching from. We got a lot to cover today. I'll definitely be Maine. That's awesome. You're like at that tip of, northeast of the United States. Would love to visit Maine one day. Based out here in California, Santa Clara is where I'm recording right now. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. We have a lot to cover today. We'll be, going through the latest updates with Bitcoin. How high is Bitcoin going to go? I mean, right now, Bitcoin is at 109,000. We saw a sudden move up with Bitcoin. What is this all like related to? So on the macro updates, there's talks about how Trump's tariffs that's going to be postponed. You know, July 9th was the day when we're going to reach that deadline, but it sounds like there's going to be an extension all the way to August. So we know US had a deal with China on the rare minerals. So that was good having that deal get in place, but just with the rest of the world, with the extension coming to August now instead of July 9th, that resulted in things looking very bullish. So this is very good, looking positive for just overall markets. And Bitcoin is, taking advantage of this. So how high is Bitcoin really going to go? Well, we'll cover all of that, just based on technical analysis. But one thing, I want to first off, cover is the overall Bitcoin rainbow price chart. So what is this telling us? So, these vertical lines represent the halving event. So we had our last halving event back in April. So we had a lot of volatility around that time. And it's common for that to happen, right? With stocks that are hedging Bitcoin, even Bitcoin as well. There was a lot of volatility going on, including the miners. Why? I mean, think about it. Every halving event that cuts the block mining rewards in half. So now for every block that is mined, you have, like over 3 Bitcoins. So in about 3 years, for the next halving event, one block would equate to like, more than 1.5 Bitcoin. So that all has to be compensated for the rise in the Bitcoin price when you think about it. And now that we're like a year out from that halving event, Bitcoin price, it did reach, all-time high, getting above 100,000, but with every halving event, things get more and more difficult. So that has to result in Bitcoin price to go up. So, one of the key things we're seeing right now is the price action hovering in that green zone. So it's in that accumulation phase. It passed the buy phase, but here you're still in that accumulation phase. Even when we get to that next green level, it's still cheap. Then at that point, you start getting into the HODL. Is this the bubble? And then, you get into the FOMO intensifies orange and red. So we're still very early on with this bull cycle. This is what is, what the rainbow chart is telling us. It's telling us that Bitcoin has potential for it to break out. Now, when we actually look at the technicals, I mean, what is the technicals telling us? Right now, Bitcoin over 109,000. That's a good thing, right? With markets soon to be open, with night trading. Bitcoin right now at 109,000. Like let's say in the next 5 hours, can Bitcoin break its all-time high level? It's very possible. Key thing I want to point out is just looking at the moving average, the 9 to 21 moving average. So we had that golden cross back in June, but as we look at the overall price action, I mean, let's scale this out. So let's take a look at the last golden cross that took place. Last golden cross back in April when Bitcoin price was like at 83,000. We had that, that golden cross, and then what happened? It ran all the way up to like, all-time high of 111,000. So the fact that we just got this golden cross back in late June, we may very well get off to the races. Bitcoin, you don't want Bitcoin to be running up like all the way up. You want it to consolidate. And we've seen the consolidation happen for like many, many weeks now. I mean, what happened during this time back in like early June? We had that, divorce with Trump and Elon. And then what happened after that? Bitcoin just ramped back up. And then what happened? During the mid-June timeframe, we got that Middle East, tension going on. And then what happened? Things went back to normal. And now we're beginning to see the relative strength increase. Bitcoin is looking very strong right now. It's consolidating, and I really do see, July at a minimum. We're gonna get to that all-time high. I think 120,000 is what we're definitely going to be seeing in the month of July. But there's going to be so much upside, especially with Bitcoin price expected to break out. We'll go through all the stocks that could really benefit, but just going through some updates on X, crypto elites. He's saying, why can't one Bitcoin reach 190,000? Just believe and be patient. So let's just take a look at this visual that he has drawn out. So 190,000 is what crypto elites is forecasting, and with every consolidation phase, we see breakouts coming. So, you see this bull flag one, bull flag two, bull flag three. We may very well have that next leg up to the new levels. And this is really going to favor, the Bitcoin treasury companies, including miners. We'll go through all those updates as well. So Plan B, most of you know who Plan B is. I mean, he puts out really good information on just the Bitcoin cycles using like data analysis. And most of the time when we look at RSI, like stock market, it's usually like that 30 to 70 RSI. With Bitcoin, it's a little bit different. You got to add like 15 to the upper and lower limit. So on the oversold situation, that's at 45 for Bitcoin. on the overbought situation, you do like 70 plus 15, so 85. But let's take a look at the relative strength index with recent market time frame. I mean, it's bouncing around 75. I mean, it hasn't even hit that 90 plus RSI. But Plan B is suspecting that Bitcoin at one point in the year 2025, we're going to have a big FOMO herd. RSI is going to pop up. That's when you have like, apps being downloaded like Coinbase, because a lot of people are going to FOMO in and start buying Bitcoin at, really high prices. So let's take a look at Vivek. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. And any comments, questions that you have, please put it in the chat. Definitely we'll go through, some updates. I know Katie is a big time, CleanSpark fan here. We'll definitely cover that. We'll be covering IREN. We'll be covering miners, treasury companies. We'll be covering, big time Riot as well. So lots of information we'll be covering today. But oops, my chat was open there. All right, so Katie with the post 190,000 isn't gonna. That's funny. Well, it's going to get you a brand new car, right, Katie? Once, CleanSpark, hits that, double, triple, quadruple gains. But it's coming. Just be patient. Miners got a big, downturn just the last couple months, but we're seeing things, reverse back. And one thing to keep in mind is seasonality plays a big favor. Every underperforming year comes with a potential outperforming year, and that's with the mining sector. So Vivek, he posts Coinbase CEO Brian. So what's Brian, what he's saying is that Bitcoin is going to take over as reserve currency. With Bitcoin over $2 trillion, I mean, gold is like, over $20 trillion. It's only a matter of time when all the money inflows are going to be going into Bitcoin. We already see that financial institutions are just buying up Bitcoin left and right. BlackRock, has like 100,000 more Bitcoins in strategy, but it's a horse race right now. It's a race for which company will have the most, Bitcoin. But as we look at overall, like just with what people are saying, like the Bitcoin therapist, he's saying, I still think we end the year somewhere around 180,000 Bitcoin and $1,000 MSTR. Just put that into perspective. Where we are right now with Bitcoin, 109,000. That's really good. I mean, we're only like 1 or 2% away from all-time high. So just think about that. Are we going to break all-time high today? We may very well do so. Bitcoin is like it's been primed. It's ready to break out. And Katie with the post, I really hope we see $30, $40. I really do see CleanSpark with that potential trajectory. I mean, look at 2023, 2024. That thing ran up from $3 to $24. So where it is right now at $12, I mean, $12 to 24, that's only 1x. And with Bitcoin price, if it runs up to 120, if it just shoots up, just be prepared for the miners to start, running up even more. Michael Saylor, he posts some weeks you just need to hodl. So every Sunday he posts, we know what's coming. I think we're gonna have a big announcement where they're gonna, get over the 600,000 Bitcoin. So just think about that. 600,000 Bitcoin. Bitcoin price goes up, over 100,000. Think about how much unrealized gains that is. And you think about it, July 31st is coming. So MSTR is going to be announcing their earnings report Q2. It's really going to attract a lot of new investors. I mean, talks about getting into S&P 500. You think about the big beautiful bill, and with with newborns, born in the year 2024 through 2029, you have, $1,000 account invested in S&P 500 with MSTR being in the S&P 500. Newborns indirectly have a hedge, with Bitcoin. And why is that the case? Because you have companies like Strategy, Coinbase, that's hedging Bitcoin. So this really adds value to the whole entire community. But when you think about it, a company that has, big time stacks of Bitcoin like Strategy, this is why MSTR, I firmly believe that the company is going to continue to grow. We're going to see continuous stock reverse splits. And, in this cycle, it's going to get to 1,000 Bitcoin. But we'll cover the technicals on that as well. But we'll go ahead and continue. But put your comments, questions, and requests in the chat. We'll definitely cover all of that. All right, so Chris, he poses, Mara is maybe the easiest chart to analyze. It's going straight back to range highs at $30. Good things happen above the daily cloud. So key thing is, during this time of like December, it went up like over $30, right? But when you go back to 2024, you saw Mara go over $30 on multiple occurrences. And then since that, election time, what happened since then? I mean, lower lows, lower highs. It was below that Ichimoku cloud. It was until the relative strength was extremely oversold under 20. Look at what happened. It got out of that Ichimoku cloud. Then there's still, there's still uncertainty going on. Mara's been, very late to the game. It hasn't broken out yet, but just recently, it just broke out above that Ichimoku cloud. And now you're going to see that inverse head and shoulders really play out where Mara price is going to shoot up very quickly. Think about what they have. Star SS. Hey, man, I'm doing good. I hope you're doing well as well, SS. I haven't heard or seen you in a long time, but very glad that you're part of the live stream. All right, so Katie posted. So if I remember correctly, you held some miners and didn't sell last cycle. Will you sell or hold this time? So Katie, that's a very good question. So just think about anytime before you actually make an investment, always sit down and just write out your thesis. Like, what are you most comfortable with in terms of, you know, um, whether it's profit, just think about what your strategy is. I've learned my lesson over the many years, like just holding on to stocks and then it shoots down and it's like, oh my gosh, I should have done this. So it's always good to take profits, but like with what I've learned from one of my friends is like missed profit or missed money is better than losing money. Okay, so just be on the lookout for that. All right, so Star SS heavily invested in Ethereum, bought Ethereum at 2000. Oh, you're doing very well, Star SS. I will also be covering ETHE as well. It's math, not magic. Definitely Ethereum is going to have a breakout too, but I'll share with you one hot play, that leverages Ethereum. Actually, a couple hot plays. We'll be covering some value stocks that are hedging Ethereum as well. So just be on the lookout. But with Mara, I definitely do think that Mara is going to have a nice breakout. Be on the lookout for that. Mara, 50,000 Bitcoin now on their treasury. I mean, they're at 57 exahash. And look at their next target, 75 exahash by year end. This is Mara for America in action. When you think about it, I actually watched a video of Executive Director Bo Hines speaking with the CEO, Fred Thiel. It's kind of like, why are these two talking, right? Is there a potential partnership between the government and with Mara? I mean, Mara with the big HODL stack like that, there's going to be some something for something, right, in exchange. So is that going to be government incentives for Mara to back the United States government with Bitcoin HODL in exchange for, let's say, tax credits, not getting double taxed, with electricity, power credits, even incentivizing them with, increased profits. So all of that really comes into play. Mining difficulty is reducing down, and this is really going to favor the miners. So, all right. So JG is on. Thank you, JG, for joining. Who is posting as Mara? So let's go through this comment I found very interesting from Sun. So here are the blue diamond targets, in my opinion, for Bitcoin mining stocks. So Bitfarms, $14, BTBT 52, BitDeer 38, Cypher 24, CleanSpark 66, High 44, IREN at 115, Mara 132, Riot 124, Wolf at 13. He's saying the Bitcoin mining ETF has been showing blue in all panes as well, with well accumulation hitting new local highs this week. WGMI $73. I'll update ASAP. I start seeing pink diamonds across the board, which I would invalidate these targets. So his comment is very bullish, and that'll be very interesting to see all of these stocks appreciate to these type of levels. Are the bulls in favor this time? Only time will tell. All right. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. Put your comments, questions in the chat. We'll definitely be covering all of this. So Star SS, Mara, SBET, Riot, BitDeer, and MetaPlanet. So Star SS, remain patient. We're going to be covering technicals of, so what you've listed there, 4 of those stocks will be covered. I have those drawings out, so it's interesting that you have that list because I see the same value as well. We'll be also covering SBET as well and MetaPlanet technicals. All right, Yang, thank you. I really appreciate it. All right, so let's continue. So look at how bullish this is. The miners, we're getting inflows coming in right now. I think a lot of the Bitcoin treasury companies, like, we had so much upside going on recently, right? And BMNT, with the Bitcoin treasury, I mean, it shot up like thousands of percent. But now people are seeing, hey, miners are performing now. Is now the time to flow back into the miners. So Riot, they announced their June numbers, and yes, we see a slight reduction of the Bitcoin amount produced. However, one of the upside with their reduction in the Bitcoin produces, they were able to gain over $5 million in all power credits. So the energy that they don't use, they are able to use that as energy credit. So they gain revenue off of that. So that just shows how strong this company is, especially during like the summer season. And look at their all-in power cost, 3.4 C for every kilowatt. That's really good. Anything like low threes is like very solid when it comes to energy costs. And the amount of Bitcoin that they have is like close to 20,000 Bitcoin. So that's definitely a big number. I mean, not comparable to like, Mara, but overall, one of the attractive things about Riot is their Corsicana facility. I think that really speaks for what value they could bring as well. Just look at the power credits, $3.8 million. They didn't have that last month, right? And then look at the demand response credit, 1.8 million. So even though you have less Bitcoin mined, 514 to 450, look at the power credit difference. That's a big amount. I mean, look at the amount of Bitcoin that was sold, right? And the reason why they're selling Bitcoin is they're trying to apply the different positive strategies that different companies are playing. So like CleanSpark, Riot, they're trying to minimize, dilution right now to support the shareholders. So they are selling Bitcoin and hodling Bitcoin as well. And their overall goal is to, improve on the fleet efficiency and, have a big hodl stack. So what I really like about Riot is the fact that they mine Bitcoin at a consistent pace. their fleet efficiency is, industry standard, and they're also pivoting to HPC AI as well. I mean, the Corsicana facility is like, a high demand area, which really just makes Riot overall as a very attractive, company when it comes to the overall stock price. It could definitely shoot up. I mean, now we're hearing a lot about HPC AI. Look at what happened to IREN. We'll cover IREN as well. But I think because Riot is really expanding their business model, to get into the large scale data centers for high performance compute and Bitcoin mining applications, that just shows the strength, and with the Corsicana facility, they also bought more land around that area for more upside to come. So definitely going to be an interesting remaining next few months. So Raymond Santos, what's your take on BMNR? So, good question. As for BMNR, Tom Lee, he's the leader of the company. A lot of people believe in him, but I'm gonna tell you, no matter how strong of a company you are, when a stock shoots up to that level, single digits to like $130, I really do think that there's gonna be a in between correction. I've never seen a stock just shoot up like that without it going down. So, I really do think that there's going to be a pullback in the upcoming weeks, and we've seen that on Thursday overnight trading where it was like an 11% dip. But who knows? It may shoot up more. I'm thinking the probability of BMNR to go down is really higher than others. That's just my take overall. Well, let's take a look at, El Capito's posting CleanSpark targets $37 to $70. So, I know Katie, including myself, JG, we're CleanSpark, investors. So let's take a look at what he's saying. Two potential bearish bat patterns forming with targets of $37 to $70. Full analysis. So he's using the Elliott wave count. So he's forecasting that we got that range of like $37 to $70. So anywhere in between this range is the potential upside with CleanSpark. So definitely very bullish. So let's just see how CleanSpark plays out. And I really like CleanSpark. Just in terms of what they're doing. I mean, very solid company. You look at their overall like target their business model. They were like the first ones to really like take the approach of like doing things differently, really focusing in on scaling their operational hash rate. And when you look at like what they announced back in like June of 2024, they reached 50 exahash. They're aggressively ramping up their throughput when it comes to Bitcoin mining production. They're mining more than 1 Bitcoin for every hour right now, each day, more than 24 Bitcoins. You know, they continue to stack sats, and it's not through buying Bitcoin, it's through the mining of Bitcoin for a low, cost expenditure of like 45,000 for every Bitcoin. But when you think about it, Bitcoin price goes to like 120,000 or higher, well, that's going to be a return margin. So where we are right now, Bitcoin at 109,227, definitely prime for a breakout. Is it going to break out tonight? Put that in the chat. Let me know what your thoughts are with how high Bitcoin is going to go. But, very bullish. As for CleanSpark, over 13,000 Bitcoins on their HODL. They're focused on getting to that 60 exahash by year end. Mara's trying to get to 75 exahash. But the upside with CleanSpark is their fleet efficiency. They're like at industry standard, right behind IREN. So definitely a company that has strong fundamentals. Let's go through technical analysis. So, put it in the chat if there's anything you'd like for me to cover. Any comments, questions, we'll definitely cover all of this. But let's go through just technicals of a strategy. So monthly candle, we continue to see this puppy, rising. It's going through this parabolic phase. It's history in the making. I mean, similar to like other companies. It took Amazon, it took Tesla many years to start going up, right? So strategy, I mean, it switched the business model from a software company going all in on Bitcoin like 5 years ago, and now the story is being told to be one of the greatest companies, and I really do think that it will continue to go up. And my price forecast for the year 2025 is around the $1,000 range. So now even the Bitcoin therapist is saying, I still think we end the year somewhere around 180,000 Bitcoin and 1,000 MSTR. So I'm in alignment with that. This top point where the yellow point of the parabolic shape is $1,000 range is what I think is going to be coming for strategy. All right. So Katie, Grant, Mel joining. Thanks, Grant, for joining. And then Katie's been watching a ton of Bitcoin videos on YouTube. Looks like a pump next week. Not my opinion, Bitcoin YouTubers. I believe there's going to be a pump that's going to be coming as well. I mean, just think about everything that's going on right now. All the whales are buying up Bitcoin, financial institutions, the government's finding out ways how to buy up Bitcoin. On the OTC, it's getting very, very difficult to buy Bitcoin. Even on the exchanges, there's not enough to go around. So, what does that mean? Sellers are going to ramp up the price. Market makers will push up the price of Bitcoin, and that'll just create a supply squeeze, and Bitcoin will get to the next tier. And that's going to favor a lot of these companies like Strategy, the miners, and all that. And MSTR just breaking out 400. I really do see us, in the month of July. Can we get back to the high 400s, 500s? It's very well possible, just with how strong Bitcoin is going to play out in this cycle. All right, let's go through overall technicals of. So now we're looking at MetaPlanet. So MetaPlanet, you know, I really like MetaPlanet. I currently don't have any shares of MetaPlanet, but I've been monitoring this when it was like at $2. It went from like $2 to like $15. Back in May, RSI was like 96, extremely overbought. So obviously had a pullback. I think this is going to happen for BMNR as well. Now it's just consolidating. The relative strength has to cool off a bit. But I really do think that now it's becoming, it's discovering its price point, its median point. So it's been hovering around that $10, $11, but I think, because it's been a couple weeks now for it to consolidate, it may get to new price discoveries, at least get back to the prior resistance. As Bitcoin price breaks out, I think it could shoot up like from $11 to like 17 plus. So just be on the lookout for MetaPlanet. It has that potential to just shoot up to $17 on the near term with MetaPlanet. So definitely watch out for that. All right, so let's cover next Mara. So Mara, on the monthly scale, you see this bearish convergence, relative strength's been plateauing. Look at this huge bearish convergence, and then in 2024 we saw a couple iterations of over $30, but since then it's been bleeding out. But when you look at it on the daily, the weekly, the MACD's reversing. So on the monthly, as we progress, we're going to see some green candles here. And I'm thinking that we're going to get back into the $30 range, July, August, very well possible. I actually bought, calls of Mara, September calls, not too much, but I really do see upside for Mara. I also have shares of Mara as well. So just be on the lookout because, I really do think that the calls are going to be printing. So it's just undervalued, and that's the reason why I like it. On top of the 50,000 Bitcoin HODL that they have. All right, so it looks like we got some comments here. Ben Fishman, I tend to think IREN is overvalued. We do not know which company that may get a contract, a billion ATM, zero Bitcoin. So that's a good point. I mean, even though we have a lot of upside news with IREN right now with their initiative with AI, I mean, when Bitcoin runs, which companies are going to have a run up? Is it going to be the companies with HODL stacks? IREN, they really sell all of their Bitcoin. They don't have any HODL, so it will likely favor the companies that have HODL. So that comes into play, which we haven't really seen factored in yet. So Ben Fishman with the comment, CleanSpark, $20 soon. Katie, I hope so, Ben. I got a monster position, so I think Katie's gonna get um, a nice reward from Santa Claus. Um, and good luck to all of us. I think as we remain patient, we rode through the volatility of last year through this year. First half of the year, it was a wild ride, but you know what? Those who remain patient will be rewarded. So just looking at Mara before we go over to the next plays, Mara's been, the RSI has been just relatively flat since the last bull cycle, 91. Any run up, if Mara runs, if CleanSpark runs, if Riot runs, all these stocks are going to run up as well. So definitely upside. All right, so similar deal with Riot. I mean, last bull cycle RSI around 90. It got up to like $80. The bull cycle before that, 2017, RSI was 83. So it's been years out where RSI has been relatively flat on the monthly candle. So I really do see, RSI like July, August, where we can get above that $22 range. Even people like Calio, he's been buying calls. He is forecasting, he may not be right, but he's saying Riot could even get to $100. So who knows? Only time will tell. History sure doesn't always repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme, and that's what we've seen in the last two bull cycles. Let's take a look at CleanSpark. So CleanSpark, similar deal as well. I mean, this puppy ran back in 2020, 2021 from like, what was it, $1 to like $48. Yes, we're looking at things in hindsight. RSI had a run up, and then late 2023, early 2024, it went from $3 to $24. But then since then, consolidating in this long duration bull flag, we're beginning to see a reversal. On the monthly, you don't see it. On the daily, weekly, we're seeing the MACD reversal. Relative strength is steadily increasing. It's all about the market makers. Financial institutions have been buying up tons and tons of CleanSpark stock. They know that market makers will eventually flip the switch, turn that on, and this puppy will start igniting. I really do see the huge upside that's going to be coming with CleanSpark. I mean, take a look at, just Sun's post. I mean, he's saying, CleanSpark, $66. So is this going to happen? Who knows, right? Mara, Riot, 124, 132, IREN, 115. Only time will tell. So that's going to be interesting to see how things play out. But I think that key thing is we're seeing it break out of that bull flag. And, with Bitcoin price right now over 109,000, I think the market, is going to continue that upward motion for the miners. Why is that the case? I think that, there's going to be a lot of money inflows. The whales are going to switch and, take a hedge with the miners. And one of the things that had happened last year was like, MSTR, a lot of people were like making so much money on MSTR and they were shorting the miners. But you know what? You can't continuously short the miners because everything comes in cycles and waves. And it's really now time for the miners to have that reversal. Seasonality was really bad in the year 2024 as well as the beginning of 2025, but things are going to switch up. I definitely do see upside there. All right, so next up is IREN. So IREN, I'm in alignment with Ben. So IREN, they did really well since April timeframe. But one of the things, to keep in mind is, yes, we see this ascending channel, higher highs, higher lows on the support levels. But look at the MACD, look at the RSI. It crept up, now it's above 73. Back in June, it hit that top point, right? $16. It had a pullback. So this purple line that I have drawn out, I think that, the price action right now, where it currently is, it had news announced, on Thursday, that short day of trading where they're expanding, buying more Nvidia GPU chips. I think we might get a pullback with IREN. The relative strength has to cool off a bit. I mean, getting above, on the daily, it's like over like 80, but on the weekly, you see it at 73, right? We're gonna have a slight pullback. Not to say that the price is going to continuously go down, but it's going to go through like ebbs and flows where it'll like self correct, build a base at like, I don't know, $14, $15, and then it'll start ascending up to this channel here. And, as we head into the rest of 2025, who knows, the price may get to like $35 plus. But I do see IREN taking a near term like pull off just based on the relative strength. So, it's one of the outperforming stocks, going from like $5 to $18 just recently. All right, so I'm going to share with you all some undervalued plays, some plays that I'm currently in that I would highly recommend. And again, this isn't financial advice. Do your research. I've done my research, and these are the reasons why I'm taking a hedge with these plays. DJT, got some calls initiated for DJT. Why do I like this so much? Well, DJT got SEC approval to buy up Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? Look at it on the daily. I mean, just look at this. This is telling you that it's extremely oversold. I mean, look at March when it was oversold. What happened then? It went from like what, $16 all the way up to like $27. Well, where is it currently at right now? It even got down to like 17, but it's reversing right now. You see that RSI reversal. Undervalued, $18. We're gonna have that, prior resistance test, 27. I really do see that it's gonna break through this purple line, $28 to the upside. MACD, you're seeing the creep up there. You're seeing the RSI. So, I really do think that it's a low risk play, given the fact that the RSI is at oversold situations. This is where, you want to buy low, sell high. Look at this opportunity. I mean, it hasn't had an RSI breakout since like October 2024. So any updates with its announcement, it could just front run the stock and the price can just run up. So I definitely see upside with DJT. Also, I got a small portion of SOUN calls on this 2 months out. No, actually, September calls on Soun. I really do think that there's upside with AI plays right now. You see the price going from like $5 to like $25 back in late December. RSI was overbought, and it's just been consolidating down, right? Cooling off, but it's been cooling off since, and now is a good time to, I saw the opportunity. Undervalued, we're seeing some reversal on the MACD. We have that crossing on the MACD. Relative strength, I think that things are going to pick up, and we already see that with other stocks like BBAI, which I'll be covering. But definitely upside with Soun. I really see potential of it breaking out into like $15. So just watch out for this stock and its potential. Really transforming audio AI. This company is based out in Santa Clara and really making a difference, bringing in revenue right now. All right, so let's cover a interesting company, SBET. So we have Star SS investing into, SBET. I'm thinking about, buying a call on SBET tomorrow. Why? Well, I mean, Ethereum, I mean, this company has a hedge towards Ethereum right now. And what happened to BMNR? I think, BMNR, people are going to take profits. Some have already taken profits and they're looking for the next, company that can just blow up, right? I mean, just look at the bearish convergence. I think any news can just shoot up the price from like 12 to like $50 on the near term. So Starlink, SBET, Ethereum based play, be on the lookout. This is very speculative, but we've already seen what's happening in the markets. There's been a lot of companies like Circle blasting off, BMNR blasting off, Bitcoin Treasury companies like MetaPlanet, you know, CEPXXI making big run ups. And it may be that SBET can have a big run up as well. Hey, Alan, thank you for joining, man. Hope you're having a nice Sunday. Glad that you're able to join. But we're just going through some technicals. I'm just sharing with you some hot stocks, undervalued stocks that I believe have potential for run ups. BBAI. So actually, bought some shares of BBAI at like $4. Actually took profits early before it got up to like $6. Question is, can it reach its prior resistance? I mean, look at the RSI on the weekly. It's now getting into that overbought situation. Long term, BBAI can be like the next, I don't know, Palantir, right? When you think about it, but just because it ran up so much, the technicals are just pointing towards it being extremely overbought. Who knows? It can break above $10, get to $12. There's been a lot of volume on BBAI, but right now I'm just monitoring this puppy. If it takes a pullback, to a certain price that I like it at, can take a hedge towards that. But hopefully BBAI will do well, since it has done well for me. But I think that there's a potential for it to either run up or take a pullback. ETHE. So for those who like Ethereum, I actually have some calls on Ethereum. So ETHE, much cheaper than, buying Ethereum, but there's upside to it. I mean, just looking at current price action at $21, back in April, this was like at $12. So it nearly like got close to double already, but the prior resistance, $34. And back in May of 2024, 36. So where it currently is right now at 21, it could easily 1x. So there's so much upside. We talk about Bitcoin breaking out, Ethereum breaking out. ETHE will break out as well, right? So definitely some upside if you're looking for, an upside play. I think ETHE has some work to look at, or at least to monitor. So as for SOXL, so again, this is a 2x leverage play. When it's a 2x leverage, there's that aspect of decay that's involved. But when you look at, just daily, intraday, or even swing investing, this has upside. I mean, the lowest it got was like, around that $7, and now it's currently at 26. But the high point back in July, it got up to $68. So I definitely see potential for it to get to like 35, depending on how soon it can get to 35. Any run up with semiconductors, this puppy can run up as well. And the reason being is because RSI has been relatively oversold, and now it's beginning to pick up the pace. So as soon as you see RSI get to like 75, that's where I would start worrying. All right, so you're welcome, Raymond. I hope that helped. What do you think of BTBT? So, Alan, we'll cover that. I'll do BTBT right after I go through the last few stocks here. I'll definitely pull up the chart. But let's cover Tesla as well. Tesla, you know, there's a lot of, back and forth going on right now with macro updates. From a fundamentals perspective, Tesla, when it shoots down, it pops back up. When it goes up, it goes back down. Lots of upside to make money with this. Question is, Tesla, will it go down tomorrow, next week? It may very well. It's like a flip of a coin. Who knows? But anything below 300, definitely upside. where anything below 300, it's like 290, definitely a buying opportunity. And that's also TSLL, the 2x leverage. Tesla is a good company overall. But right now, with just the macro updates, there's uncertainty. But long-term perspective, I see it breaking out above 420. If you just look at it from a long-term perspective. Last company here is Nvidia. So congratulations if it was you buying, during that, market uncertainty, March, April timeframe. This thing pulled back to like $80. But think about it, $80 for a share of Nvidia. I mean, the next 3 months it went 1x, from $80 to 160. But I really do see the power in Nvidia right now. We hear a lot about, HPC AI and all that, and a lot of these mining companies that are, expanding its AI initiative. This is all through Nvidia GPUs. And who's making money? Nvidia is, because they are the primary providers. So from a technicals analysis, I do foresee it to hover above in this ascending channel, and it will, I think 2025 we will definitely see 205 be broken. At least in the near term, we can see 205 be reached. So I'm going to pull up a request from Alan on BTBT. So give me one moment where I pull up the charts for a bit digital. All right, so just looking at bit digital on the daily, I mean, this looks really good. 572 November top off, 196, 294. Looking very good. And RSI, it's not like overbought or anything, it's still in that nice range. But just looking at the reversal, you have that MACD reversal. This is a prime candidate to break out back into the $4 range. I do see that $4 upside for Bit Digital to come. So Alum definitely looks like one of those Bit Farms Cipher plays. In fact, Cipher has done really well, but Bit Digital, just looking at the technicals, yep, it's looking like it's going to break out, and it's all going to be correlated with how Bitcoin performs. And where we are right now with Bitcoin, 109,000, looking very good. Let's just hope, to see how high Bitcoin can go today. So, Katie, what is ticker symbol CLSKW? Asking for a friend. So, I've seen that too. CLSKW. If anyone has more details, put it in the chat. I think it's a CleanSpark play as well. It's basically a CleanSpark, but it's I don't know, it's leveraging CleanSpark, but definitely the price is much different when you look at it. But it went down to like 29 cents, 47 cents, so it's having a nice run up. So if anyone knows CLSKW, put it in the chat. All right, so I spoke a lot so far, so I hope you all enjoyed so far. How high do you all think Bitcoin can go in the month of July? Put it in the chat. What's your take on Bitcoin? Is it gonna break through a certain price point in the month of July? Where we are right now, 109,000. Okay, thank you, Alan, for answering that question. So CLSK warrants. So is it fair to say Bit CleanSpark price goes up, CLSK follows? Is it heavily correlated? All right, so it looks like we got more folks joining on right now. Bitcoin's looking very strong right now. Hopefully it breaks, above, gets above 100. Hopefully it breaks through 113,000. That'll be great. I think that it has the potential today. For some reason, I'm just feeling it. It's this Sunday where we may very well have Bitcoin just, breakthrough numbers we haven't seen happen yet. But we'll see. Only time will tell. Right now, 109,000. Let's see how high Bitcoin goes. So JP, thank you, JP, for joining, man. I really appreciate you. I think you're, a member to the channel. So really appreciate it. And for those of you who have not subscribed, it would be so helpful for you to support. I'm like 50 subs away to 10,000 subscribers. So getting very close. JP, I'd love to, connect with you. If any of you, JP, if you use like X, let's talk, man. As far as getting to that 10,000 subscribe, if you haven't subscribed yet, would be very helpful for it to to subscribe to the channel. Getting very close to that milestone achievement is going to be great. We're all going to learn together, benefit, grow together. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Discord channel. That's a great idea, definitely. I've been hearing a lot about that. Um, so thank you. Yes. So JG, really appreciate you too, man. With all of the perspective you share. So Katie, your question: do you think we have an extended cycle? So, you know, I do believe that we may go beyond 2025. So if we go based off of the traditional forecast, October is like that end point of the cycle. But just given where we are with all of the macro news updates, think about how much Bitcoin has been bought this year. Public companies bought up 250,000 Bitcoin, and only 20,000 Bitcoin has been mined so far in 2025. And you know that there's only like a million Bitcoins left, right? So just in the year 2025, 250,000 Bitcoin was just bought. So that's like a fourth of what's left to be mined. So, that's like 25% consumed, purchased for what's remaining, which is like a million Bitcoin. So just put that into perspective. And I really do think that the cycle is going to continue. Of course, there will be bear cycles. That's just the name of the game. In the stock market, we see, you know, we see a recession happening once every 6 years. I don't think the Bitcoin cycle will be like, you know, um, the way we see it, but it may gradually change to that level of trajectory. Like it'll be extended out even further. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Katie. But then JD posting 800,000 within the next year Bitcoin price. So, to JP's point, we may very well have a breakout of Bitcoin. And, there's a lot of people like Arthur Hayes at the Bitcoin conference. He's saying under Trump 2.0, we're going to have Bitcoin going to $1 million. So Katie reminds me of when toilet paper was at a premium in COVID times. So I think there's going to be a lot of FOMO herd going to be kicking in soon. People are just going to be like, dang, I should have listened to my friend when they were saying to buy Bitcoin at this price and all that. So there's definitely going to be some FOMO coming. The moment people start downloading like Coinbase and like Robinhood exchanges, that's when you have the retail coming in. So JP, can you speak to the U.S. debt being refinanced in August and all the problems with the dollar? Because I feel like that's going to be the tipping point of this whole show. Do you have any perspective? Yes. So hopefully I can, just cover how I look at this. So, at the Bitcoin conference, we had Lynn Alden speaking. She showed some nice graphs and all that. It's really the infamous saying, like, nothing can stop this train. So while the U.S. debt continues to go up, we have this big, beautiful bill coming out. Yes, that stimulates the economy and all that. That improves the overall like growth of the economy, but the U.S. deficit will continue to grow, and the counter to that is print, print, print. So continue to ink those dollar bills, keep printing, and that's going to put more dollars in people's wallets. But what does that mean for every $100 bill? It becomes more devalued. But when you look at how that will, change the value of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin can't be engineered where you can like, create more Bitcoin, Bitcoin price is just going to go up even more. And time factor becomes very critical for Bitcoin because in 3 years we have the next halving event. So, the compensatory mechanism comes into play where Bitcoin price will go up over time. So the tipping point is definitely coming, and that's why, you know, Trump, even his company DJT, which I is covering, I mean, he's front running things. I mean, he's putting money where his mouth is. So he actually owns shares of, DJT's, it's really, his company, his name is on the line, right? He has, shares of it as well. And, he's buying up Bitcoin and Ethereum. He hasn't announced it yet. He knows the ultimate hedge towards inflation is just stable coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum. So I think DJT, they may have already bought Bitcoin, Ethereum, but they haven't announced it yet. So be on the lookout for DJT stock. And also, when you look at, Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, they were at the Bitcoin conference. They partner with, Hut 8, American Bitcoin Mining. So the fact that the Trump family is now investing into Bitcoin mining ecosystem, Bitcoin overall, creating stable coins. That just shows that they understand cryptocurrency. They know that this is going to revolutionize how we look at traditional finance. So follow the money. The money, you know, they know where the money is, and that's where we want to, adapt. So, Jim, erosion of purchasing power just means equities and assets go up forever. Problem is, people who think in dollars will reach a point where being a millionaire is barely middle class. The debt will never come down globally, not just the US. Central banks are accelerating the debt crisis. Credit collapse would be devastating. Very true. Eric Trump owns his father's shares in DJT through a trust, so likely Eric front running these things there would make sense why crypto is such a front run despite Trump seeming clueless on this topic. So, very good point. The United States, the deficit will never go away. But when you look at the opposite side of the equation, the United States asset is like over $200 trillion. So, yes, we have 36 trillion deficit, but when you look at the accounting equation, we got so much assets. We're the richest country out there. And with the big beautiful bill, that's really gonna grow like companies, the economy will grow. Yes, assets is the counter to that. But like in everyday life, I mean, IOUs, I mean, this is how the United States has grown. It's billionaires making money through IOUs. You borrow money to make money, and that's not going to stop this train. The United States will continue to be in a deficit, and just, holding on to Bitcoin will give you an extra leverage. So, some good questions there. But all right, so I've gone over live for over an hour already, but I really appreciate all the comments, the questions you all share. Just thank you. I really appreciate all of you who are supporting the channel. And, Bitcoin price getting close to reaching all-time high, 109,144. let's hope for Bitcoin to break through over 100,000 in the month of July. Let's see some fireworks. And with companies like MSTR, we have July Q2 earnings report. We're gonna have fireworks being announced. Things are gonna front run. MetaPlanet, I think has potential after consolidating for near term to the upside of $17. Mara, I really think that on the monthly, we're seeing a reversal. It's breaking out of that bull flag. It's going to have a nice run up above $30 in the near term. Riot, will history repeat itself with a huge RSI run? Only time will tell, but on the near term, above $24 is very well possible. Along with CleanSpark, breaking out of this bull flag, will history repeat itself with an RSI of 80 plus coming? Only time will tell, but having this run up to its prior resistance of $24 is very well possible as well. IREN went from $5 to like $18 on the near term. 2025, it's looking like it's going to continue to ascend in this channel, but do expect that RSI is above 73. It might take a slight pullback before the next leg up. IREN is definitely a company not to ignore as a miner in AI. DJT, buy low, sell high. This is a great opportunity just based on the technicals and them switching to become a Bitcoin treasury company. So definitely upside there where I could see it break through the $28. Soon, SOUN, AI based company, just with the consolidation period since December timeframe, that run up top. We see companies like BBAI running, and soon going to be breaking out, possible above $15. SBET, Ethereum Treasury Company. We saw what BMNR done, so be on the lookout for this company currently at $12. It could just shoot up. Who knows how high, but very speculative play that has potential for a run up in the upcoming weeks. BBAI, will it reach its prior resistance? Can it get to $12 or is it going to have a pullback? I would highly recommend just following, just seeing what the charts are going to show us. It'll be interesting. Ethereum, you like Ethereum? If you believe that Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to break out, this ETF has potential for a run up. We saw it go up to like $34, 36, current price around 21. It has huge upside there. SOXL, if you like semiconductors, prior resistance on the near term 35 with $26, a $10 appreciation. You can see that nice gains there. Tesla, lots of uncertainty going on. Will it go down or will it go up? We'll see. Only time will tell. But if it dips below 300, definitely a buying opportunity. Tesla, there's no question that that it won't break through like 350 in the long-term course. So 290 to 350, that's a guarantee if you have propensity to hold. Nvidia, congratulations to those who bought in at $80. Going from 80 to 160, definitely some gains, but I do see 200 is going to be that next leg up. So there we have it. Hope you all enjoyed this live stream. BitDeer, BTBT, Bit Digital, definitely, some upside there. So BTBT, I didn't know that. So thank you, Jim, for sharing that. Them switching to Ethereum as well. So thank you, Katie. Love the show. Thank you for the time. I appreciate you and your support there. So just reading through the chat, hydrogen sector ready to run, uranium cooling off. All right. Well, thank you all. It was a fun live session. I really appreciate you all. And let's have Bitcoin breakout. We'll do this again next Sunday. But have a good rest of your Sunday. Take care, guys. Bye now.